101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is the founder and CEO of Iron Bass, no other than Mr. James Mills.
Thanks for having me on, Daniel. Looking forward to a nice chat.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. James. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I'm the CEO and founder of IronVest Financial Planner. For the last 10 years or so, I've been coaching financial professionals how to grow and scale their business. And typically, I do that through business strategy or through teaching them how to be a better salesperson. And yeah, I live and die by the conversation of sales, and so I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to the psychology behind it all. So I'm excited to have the chance to kind of shed some of that light with you guys and your listeners.
That'd be awesome. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. James. And today, let's talk about business growth and strategy. How do you diagnose if a company is truly ready to scale beyond just having a product market fit, and what foundational elements are non-negotiable?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, the hard part is with scaling a business and knowing when to scale your business, right? Is kind of two things. One, it goes back to the entrepreneur themselves, right? It's are they wanting to see scalable growth within their business, or are they content with where they are right now, right? Because some founders, some business owners, they get content with where they are, and that's no harm, no foul to them. But if they want to scale their business, the second question really becomes capacity. Do they have the ability to scale their practice? Do they have the infrastructure in place where they're not dropping things beyond the word works and everything if they do continue to grow? And so if you kind of meet an ambitious business owner who has the capacity, who's not dropping the ball already, who's able to kind of keep up with the additional work if they do scale and grow their practice, I think that's really the twofold answer. It's just ambition and then the level of capacity that the and bandwidth that this employer or business owner has.
Mr. James, how do you implement this to Iron Vest?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I teach financial professionals. So mainly what I do is I'm an insurance marketer, independent marketing organization where I partner with financial professionals and I talk to them. And my first question with them mainly is what's the best use of their time, right? And it typically comes into a twofold conversation. It's one, let's talk about product, let's talk about the solutions you're offering your own clients, Mr. and Mrs. Financial Professional. But the flip side is just where in their business, where in this professional's practice are they feeling that they need most support? And it's interesting because it's a multitude of different things that I see financial professionals answering, right? One thing I talk a lot about is implementing AI into people's business structures and how they can implement that for growth. And another area that we see a lot of success with is coaching people how to scale their business through business planning. But I think one of as I kind of mentioned a second ago, I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to teaching people how to sell because I've been an independent contributor for 10 years where I'm out on the front lines selling stuff myself. And so I typically teach these financial professionals and people in other industries as well on how to sell better and how to grow their practice based on that. And so that's what we bring that Iron Vest. But again, that's also where my passion lies. Is I probably spend an hour or two a week researching how to be a better salesperson and watching podcasts. And honestly, even some of your guests that you brought on, I've kind of appreciated as well. In that same vein of conversation of business owners and who are wanting to scale their practices.
When defining growth strategy, how do you balance ambitious vision with realistic constraints, and what keep leaders grounded?
That's a good question, and I feel like you're going to have a variety of great questions, so I appreciate that. No, I think the main point in the vision aspect, right, and the realistic aspect is don't shoot for lofty goals day one, right? But you
Mm,
always have to have a 5 year time horizon that you can kind of pinpoint and say, hey, this is where I want to go. But it's a matter of finding the minutia that gets you to that point. And so usually um, what I coach to is in a great business plan is you talk about who, why, how, and what, right? So the who is who am I targeting? These are the prospects, these are the clients that I'm looking for. Doesn't matter the industry, it's a scalable thing across any kind of business enterprise. But if you narrow down who your target demographic and where you can find that target demographic is, your next question becomes why. And that is why am I worth their time? Right? It's a matter of what kind of value can I bring in their conversations and in my client's life? What kind of solutions can I offer them that makes me worth their time to be in front of them? Right? And then the how is the how do I go to market? And that's a matter of how many phone calls am I going to make? How many emails am I sending? What type of emails am I sending? What am I posting on LinkedIn? What's my social media presence look like? It's a vast array of like seminars and the meetings and the coffees, anything that really goes into how am I going to go to market this thing. And then the last question is kind of a more existential question of the business of just what am I going to face, right? And that's where you can kind of have that SWOT analysis where you're like, all right, well, my strengths and my weaknesses are this as a company and as an individual, but my opportunities, my threats within the industry, here's what I need to capitalize on. And whatever those threats necessarily are, it's a matter of having ways to overcome that as well. So that's kind of the first part of your question, is just, again, knowing who, why, how, and what when it comes to your business planning and scalability. But the flip side is, and I love the fact that you asked this question, is the fact of what keeps a business owner, a founder grounded, right? And it's going to be
yes.
different. Yeah, it's different for everybody, and it's for me personally, I'm very big on family. I'm very big on faith. And so those two things I think keep me grounded in the sense of I read a ton of books as you do. I don't have the 40-year time horizon for that, um, but the conversation I typically talk to is there's a moral ambition, there's a spiritual leadership, there's a couple books that we can kind of pinpoint that talk more about, and it's not just within these books, but they talk quite a bit about serving others as the essence of leadership, right? And I think that is a telltale of a great leader, and ultimately a great leader leads to teach others. And I think that's what at least keeps me grounded is that I'm not just doing this for me, I'm doing this for the betterment of not only my clients but also my subordinates. And I think, again, the sign of a truly great leader is in the empowerment of others. And I think in that, in the empowerment of others, you have to kind of humble yourself. And I think that, to answer your question, I think that's what's humbled me, or at least what I'd like to say. I'd like to. I'm cocky about being humble, I guess, a way I would probably word it. So
Humility indeed, people. Humility. And Mr. James, how, what, and why IronVest will impact the world.
So again, our main thing is bringing risk solutions to advisors, right? And we do that differently than most other people. So when we're talking about risk solutions, I'm usually talking about, hey, let's protect people through insurance solutions like long-term care or disability or annuities or life insurance. We're talking about, people's retirement and their legacy. Um, but the way we do it and the way we talk to the financial professionals that we support in these endeavors is we do it by having cutting edge technology that we're helping them implement, right? I know it's buzzwords now that everyone's like, hey, let's chase the AI train. But when you actually implement AI into your practice and whatever AI to you necessarily means, right? Like I'm probably in ChatGPT once or twice a day, just researching and saying like, "Hey, help me craft this story," or help me. One thing I coach to in sales is that when I'm teaching someone how to sell, I always talk about breaking stuff into three main points, right? Whenever you have a client, doesn't matter the industry, right? If you whatever the industry that you're in, if you're a salesperson for that industry, every client in that industry is going to have similar issues. And if you break those issues into three main points and say these are the three main points that my clients are facing, psychologically people hold on to that number three quite a bit, so it's easier to digest as the consumer. But if I came to you and I said, here are my three main issues, I can solve those three issues. You created a solution and insights for your client that ultimately makes you less of a product pusher and more of, hey, I'm a solution bringer. And I say all that because um, I usually go into ChatGPT and I'm like, hey, tell me these three industries. Even before this conversation, when I was prepping some of my conversation, I'm like, tell me what a managing consultant would say to a manufacturer. What three issues are they solving, right? Or what are three main issues that a pharmacy rep is solving for his doctors? Or for me, what are the three issues financial advisors are dealing with that I can potentially help them with? And typically with that, it's inflation, bonds, and market risk, right? And we don't need to dive into the minutia of the financial world, but um, that's some of the stuff that we're bringing is hey, let's craft your stories by leveraging AI, but not losing that human touch. Or let's talk about how you can use that to help with your branding on social media, or even in our cases, one of the things that we do is we give financial professionals the ability to give their clients quizzes on, all right, well, tell us a little bit more about your health. Let's see a little bit more about what you're anticipating or what your goals are in the future, right? With a big pocket of money, people are typically doing one of three things: it's beneficiary planning, it's income, or it's growth. It's the big idea, right? And so like we're
Yes.
asking, yeah, so we're asking those questions too, and it's giving the advisor the ability to have a solution in mind for their client without actually even having to present the product. They're intimately getting to know their client and their needs of their client without necessarily having to do all of the legwork behind it.
Mr. James, as the CEO and founder of Ironvest, as well as a coach, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Short-term goals. We're a relatively younger company, so I'm just navigating the waters when it comes to that and trying to scale as fast as I can. As I mentioned, I've been in sales, especially in the financial industry, for over 10 years. But recently, we kind of broke off and started doing our own thing, me and my two other partners. Um, so we kind of are building our own thing, but with clients and experience behind us that say, hey, we know what we're doing. But I think in 10 years, transparently, I have two little ones at home. I have a 3-year old and a 1-year old, and I would love the chance to continue to grow this thing in a way where I'm teaching others how to be better salespeople and how to grow their practices and impact more lives. But the flip side is I want to be sipping rum runners on the beach with my kids and my wife. So that's my 10-year time horizon. But I'm sure you probably have a similar goal with that.
Definitely, for sure, Mr. James, and looking forward for more success and good luck to your goals. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be, of course, like you?
Just chase the dreams. Honestly, I know that's as cliche as possible, but I think the life is all about taking risks. And I think it was a big risk for us to take a step away from the company that we were working with and building our own thing. And I gotta say, life has a way of life is what happens when you make other plans, right? You're going to find that the universe will start giving you signs that you need to be doing something in particular. And as much as you might want to shy away from doing that thing, it's destiny or it's God or it's the universe kind of pointing at you and saying, hey, this is what you need to do. And it's kind of that way of showing what your purpose ultimately is. And so I think in that method, um, it was weird the amount of signs that I was given that, hey, it's a scary step. You're going to want to do this though, because at the end of the day, you're beheld to yourself. You're going to be able to impact more people because of it. And at the end of the day, that's really all we can ask for. And so that I think that's my words of advice is just go after it, even if it seems scary, because it was put there for a reason.
Yes, definitely. And stop procrastinating, people. If you have the passion of something, please share to the world. And Mr. James, can you recommend a book that influence your journey or books that influence your journey?
I mentioned two of them already: moral ambition, and then you have spiritual leadership. And then I think as a salesperson, one of the books that most influenced me was The Challenger Sale by Matthew Dixon, Brent Adamson. That book kind of, as a salesperson, changed my life because, as I kind of mentioned a second ago, if you're a salesperson for any industry, all of your clients are dealing with the same issues. And if you learn how to talk that talk and you learn how to break that down into a simple manner for your clients, again, you're solving problems. You're not just pushing product. And I think for complex salespeople, which surprisingly most industries nowadays are turning to complex sales, I think that's the book I'd turn to. And I've read plenty of sales books beforehand. So
How do you balance investing in disruptive innovation while optimizing the core business without neglecting either? And thank you for your recommended books, Mr. James.
yeah, of course, thank you, and I appreciate all the great questions. It's been very insightful. Um, no, again, great question though. When it comes to investing in some of the AI technologies and still being true to what your core values are as a company, it's a tough question in the sense of everyone wants to be cutting edge. Everyone wants to adopt AI. And again, that's why it's one of the buzzwords nowadays is that everyone's saying, hey, I want to invest in AI. My old boss used to say he wanted to invest in AI, but he didn't actually know what AI was. So he's just like, I want AI. We're like, all right, what kind of AI? And he's like, I want AI. We're like, oh. So I think at its core, you're not supposed to go at it from the angle of, hey, I want to invest in this because it's AI, or I want to invest to invest, right? It's investing with a purpose. And so if you ask yourself, what impact is a certain tool going to bring me and my clients and my business? I think that's point number one, regardless of whatever investment it is. It's I'm starting with what the goal and the purpose is in my mind, right? And so for us, some of the quizzes we offer, or some of the regulatory disclosure, some of the financial stuff that we implement when it comes to like using artificial intelligence for like portfolio modeling and some of the more again nuanced financial stuff that we don't need to definitely dive into. We were looking at it from the lens of our clients. We were like, all right, well, if we want to help bring risk mitigation to someone, let's say my parents, right? If I want to bring some kind of risk management to my parents' retirement plans, what kind of questions is that financial professional who my parents are meeting with? What kind of questions are they going to be asking? All right, so we got the questions in mind. How can we automate that? And so when it came to that, we ended up looking for a lot of partners in the industry, and that's how we ended up finding this. We had that end goal in mind of how can we automate these questions so it's an easier transition for my client to have conversations with their clients, right? And that's what ended up creating these partnerships that we have with some of the AI technologies. Is all right, that's only X amount of dollars per month or per year, and that's doing exactly what we're asking for. Let's do that. And so I think it's a more in-depth conversation than I'm going more in depth than I necessarily need to, but ultimately I think at the end of the day is you lead with purpose, and I think you don't lose that human touch. you use artificial intelligence or any of your investments that you're necessarily pouring stuff into as a way to elevate the human experience and elevate that human touch that you're bringing to your clients and to your business. Does that answer your question?
Definitely, Mr. James. But before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and of course, my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101, Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in its fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its fourth season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Mr. James, when is the right time to disrupt your own business model, and what prevents leader from making this leap?
When you're saying disrupt a business model, like changing what their business plan is that kind of what you mean
Yes,
as
sir.
a leader? I, you know, I don't believe in disruption in the traditional sense as a business leader. And the reason I say that is because you aren't if you're constantly monitoring and adapting your business, it's not a
Yes.
disruption. It's something that you're consistently doing. And so I think that's really the key to surviving in any business environment, right? Is that ability to adapt. And I think leaders often and I'm a millennial, so I'm gonna look at it from the lens of a millennial mind, right? But some of the older generations, not to deter the older generations, they come from a mindset where the traditional stay with the flow, moving a large giant ship type analogy comes into play, and they don't necessarily want to move what their strategy is because they're like, the longer we stay with it, the better it's going to yield, right? And that's true in investing. I work in the financial sector, right? Investing for the long haul, do that, right? Markets are always going to be up in the long haul. But what you see on a business level, on a macro or even a micro level, is that if you're constantly improving your business and you're constantly evaluating that business, that's how you're going to continue to scale your growth. You want to be abreast of what the market's doing. You want to be abreast of what the industry's doing. And you want to stay top of mind and top of line with what your business and scalability kind of looks like. And so it's not necessarily, hey, tomorrow I'm coming and I'm saying, hey, I'm 180 degree on changing my business model, right? It's I'm doing continuous improvement. And I think honestly, that's a life lesson more of just a business lesson. It's just it's all the compound effect. It's the pebble that falls from the mountain that grows into a snowball, right? Is everything in life, if you scale it down into small steps and you just take those steps going forward, it can grow to something beautiful and great. And I think again in business, it's the same idea of just taking those small steps day in, day out to continue to improve your business. And from that standpoint, you create an entire empire. And so I think again that's my viewpoint in both life and in business is just continuous improvement and do it in small ways that you can manage.
Mr. James Mills, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Second, please invite our listeners to support your business, your advocacy, or any projects that you're doing right now.
Yeah, we have a lot of stuff going on. Again, we're scaling our business. On the flip side, we're also I like to write, so I'm sure we'll probably talk about that at a different
Yes. Please do come over and let's talk about it when you publish it.
Looking forward to it. Well, I appreciate you having me on.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. James Mills because if you support him for sure, more and more and more empowering business to come, more and more empowering coaching to come, and for sure, more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Mr. James, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
More to come, people. See you soon.